Well, good day everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Well, it's been a week or more since I've made a video, and I thought it was time to certainly make another typewriter video. We're overdue. Let's start over, shall we? I had a comment from a viewer just this morning, and I get comments from videos that I've made over 5 years ago, and it's fun kind of going back and looking at the videos because I don't watch a lot of my old videos very often, and look and see what their question was. The video they were speaking of was about the Triumph Norm 6, and their question was pertaining to where is the serial number? Well, I figured I don't remember where the serial number is. I'm going to have to pull the machine out. So I took it out of the closet, set it up here, and I realized, you know, I haven't really typed very much with the Triumph Norm 6 in the last year or so. It, along with the Voss I have, are the two German keyboard machines, and they don't seem to get much use as much as the others. But if you're curious where that serial number is, it's behind the bichrome lever on the left side of the keyboard. It's mounted vertically. I haven't used this machine in a while, and I thought since I have it out, I might as well throw some paper in it and try it out. Well, let me show you a little bit about the machine if you're unfamiliar with the Triumph Norm 6. I'll give you my thoughts about it, so stay tuned. Well, I've had this machine for a number of years, and it was a gift from a friend of mine, Chris England, who sent it to me unannounced, really, and what a great gift. So this is, I would say, mid-1940s vintage. So there's a few of these machines listed on the typewriter database, and the best that I can interpret the typewriter database, this might have been made around 1944, like near the end of the European War. But it's possible it was made right after the war. I can't really interpret the database any more accurately than that. But there's no indication from either examining the type slugs themselves or looking at the keycap legends. There's no indication that this typewriter had the German National Socialist Workers' Party Schutzstaffel symbol on this. It didn't have that rune. And it's actually a German-Hungarian keyboard. So the backspace is Hungarian words, which I won't try to pronounce. It's made in Nuremberg, however, according to the decals. So maybe it was made right after the war. It could have been made during the war. I'm not really sure, but rather rare, I would say, in the United States for having one of these. The condition of it is really pretty decent, and I think the only real issues that I see on this machine, besides, of course, having a hard platen, is the entire ribbon area up here is Bakelite, or a Bakelite-like material, and underneath each ribbon spool are a set of screws that's secure it down, but there's also some screws on the front right here and here, and if you take the ribbon spools off, take these two screws out, and forget about these two, when you try pulling it out, you'll break the corners of the Bakelite cover off, and that's what someone had did previous to me getting the machine, because there's the two corners are cracked, and I don't remember if I actually ever glued them back. I think I just left them the way they are, but the broken edges fit together pretty tightly. The only other problem I have is when the ribbon advances, whichever reel or spool is the supply side spool, it tends to freewheel. There's not any back tension drag on the supply side spool. So when you get to typing rather fast, you'll have the supply side spool starts to spill ribbon out, and sometimes it'll cause, as you're typing, this extra slack loop of ribbon will cause the ribbon to pop out of the vibrator fingers. And I didn't see any real way to add any kind of a back tension to the ribbon drive system underneath. It's just the way it is. So anyway, that's the only other issue I really see on it, as I said, besides the hard platen. Yes, I love the look of these keycaps. The thick metal rims are very attractive. The only key that I find out of place in appearance really is this margin release key. It's a black plastic cylinder, shiny black, with a white center dot on it. It just seems a little bit out of place to the rest of the keys, considering all the levers are chrome plated and shiny metallic. I also like the legends on these keycaps. They're very modernist looking. And then, of course, one of the unique design features of the Norm 6 are these blue and gold Norm 6 logos. It does not have the number 1, so it's like a lot of the older typewriters use a lowercase l. So it does have the numbers 2 through 9. It does not have a number 0, so for the number 0 you have to use a capital O, so you have to shift for the number 0. So this machine is a half-line spaced machine. When you set the line spacing selector to single line spacing, the carriage of turn lever makes 2 clicks. The middle position is 1.5 line spacing, which makes 3 clicks. And of course, 2 is double line, which is 4 clicks. So it's nice to have the line spacing indicator actually be accurate, because a lot of 1.5 line space machines don't actually say 1, 1.5, and 2. They say 1, 2, and 3. And I'm speaking about you, Olivetti. So here you can see the temporary line spacing disconnect, and if you push that lever forward, it's pushing the spring-loaded roller away from the line spacing ratchet. Whereas if you pull the left platen knob out, you can make the permanent line spacing adjustment. It does have a carriage release lever on both left and right sides, which is very nice. A lot of the older machines from pre-World War II, even these medium-sized machines, often didn't have the left-hand release lever. It has these very handsome margin setting buttons, and they have these nice round knurled buttons, but you actually just press them in and then you can slide them, and they literally are one-finger operation. Push and slide with one finger. They're kind of dished in and have that knurled texturing for your finger not to slip. Very nice. And then the paper support lever, you pull it up and it kind of springs and ratchets and kind of locks into place, and if you push it down, it'll kind of do the same. It'll kind of ratchet down into the closed position. The paper support finger does extend up, similar to a more modern day Olympia typewriter. Both the right side of the paper bale and the left side have these finger tabs for making convenient operation of lifting the paper bale. Rubber paper bale rollers that slide back and forth, and a graduated scale on the paper bale as well. The bale will flip up and then it'll hyperextend back like that. So it has 3 positions. And to complete the overview of the controls on the carriage, the right side you have the right side carriage release button, and then the paper release button right here, which releases the pressure on the feed rollers. And of course there is a carriage lock lever. If you pull it up, pull the platen to the right, it'll lock securely for storage and moving. Push it back and then you can release and move it. And here you can see the notch in the carriage bearing race for where that lock engages. So I made a short test here to see if this is a true half character space machine, and it sort of looks like it is. If you press the space bar down and then release it, it looks like it's moving about equal distances. But I did this classic test here. The way you would normally insert a missing letter with a machine that's a true half character space machine is you line up the printing position on the last letter of the previous word, press release the space bar, and then press and hold it, type your first letter, release the space bar, press and hold it, type your second letter, etc. And the space here and the space here should have been the same distance, but they're not quite. So this is close to being a true half character space machine, but it's actually not. So when I was examining this machine today, I took notice of these 2 little triangular pieces right here. They slide on this square bar and they pivot back and forth, and it was only after looking at a Triumph Adler, a later typewriter after the war, that I realized this is the equivalent of the paper diverter. There's usually a lot of portable typewriters have this flat panel that's spring-loaded and it's pushed down against the platen. And really what's the purpose of it is to keep the paper from wrapping itself around the platen. And it also provides a surface as an erasing table, some manufacturers call it. But on this machine here, the paper diverter, instead of being a whole panel, it's just these two wedge-shaped brackets, and they are spring-loaded and they will slide back or flip back, as you see, which raises the question of why did they make the paper diverters movable, pivotable? And I started thinking to myself, maybe they did this because they're giving you the opportunity to actually wrap a piece of paper around the platen. And now this is a crazy idea, and you guys who've watched the channel long enough know that I'm full of crazy ideas, but here's my crazy idea, is I flip back these paper diverter levers and I feed the end of the paper back into itself, and like that, flip these paper diverters back down, and now I can go thread another piece of paper on here, and maybe it'll act like its own backing sheet. Like I can pad the platen roller and protect it a little bit more using a sheet of paper like this. Keeping in mind, of course, that when you go to back roll the machine, you might unthread your backing sheet that's been rolled around the platen. But if you line advance the carriage in the forward direction like this, it'll just stay on the platen and you can use it over and over again. So let's throw a piece of paper in here and see how it types, shall we? Well, let's see if we can get a piece of paper threaded in here with our makeshift platen cover. There we go. Okay. It has a firm but smooth typing action. It actually is quite comfortable to type on. I love the feel of the keys, and these glass key tops feel slightly dished in, or at least maybe it's the metal rims are high enough above the keycap that it feels like a pocket for your fingertip to fall into, which makes it easy to locate your fingers on the keyboard. Well, for non-German literate people using this machine, the big question is, how do you get along with a QWERTZ or QWERTZ keyboard? And for me, actually, I find it pretty easy to use. I tend to use more hunt and pecking on my left hand anyways. I tend to do more touch typing on my right hand. The Z or Z and the Y, I'm slow enough on that hand that I can think about, I have to switch letters, switch fingers, right? So I haven't really made too many mistakes. So in terms of actually using this typewriter for writing in English, of course, the two obvious issues are the Y and the Z or the Z key are transposed like any German keyboard would be. And the other issue on this typewriter is that it doesn't have an apostrophe. None of the symbols up here or anything else. So what I have to do is this dead key, this dead accent key, you type that and then you have to type a space. And that is your apostrophe. Well, I have 3 machines in my collection that I don't use very much. I have this Triumph Norm 6, I have a Voss, and I have the little MJ Roy with an AZERTY keyboard. I think the MJ Roy is the kind of a machine that, due to its rarity and its unique folding, narrow, compact design, it's kind of a collector's machine. And as you guys probably know, my typewriter collecting is not as much about museum pieces, but it's more about usable typewriters for actually writing with. So the MJ Roy is kind of the exception to my normal rule. But this machine here and the Voss also, both the German keyboards, they don't get as much use, but I really like this machine when I do break it out. I seem to operate fine with it. If I switch my mind a little bit, I can generally type really well with the QWERTZ keyboard without transposing the Z and the Y that often. It actually becomes quite usable. I really like the action on this machine. Most everything's pretty reliable. So this was a great example of an older video that I made. A new viewer sees it, has his own version, wants to know where the serial number is, drops a comment in that video, and I see the comment, I break out this typewriter, and I find where the serial number is located, and I comment back and give him an answer. And in the process of doing that, we have this dialogue going. Even though that video was made a few years back, it's still fun to have those kind of dialogues on those older videos, and so I encourage you guys, If you have any questions about my older videos, drop a note down below and I'll try my best to answer them if I can. And in the meantime, in the process of answering those questions, it turns out that I break a typewriter out and start using it again that I haven't used very much. And so that blesses me as well. In any event, I hope whatever typewriters you have in your collection that you will get around to using them all. Don't ignore any one of them. Give them all some use, give them all some love, and stay creative this season. There's an opportunity here for writing cards and letters coming up in November and December. Hope you guys take advantage of that. Write some letters. Be well, be safe, be creative. Have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.